Longtime Dungeness Valley resident Bob Clark rang in the 120th anniversary of Dungeness Schoolhouse like he did when he was a schoolboy there in the 1930s.
This is an old building. My father went here before and my uncles and my aunts, they all attended Dungeness School.
Like I told the history caucus for the state legislature last year, when we went to present what we're doing here at the Museum and Arts Center, we featured the schoolhouse, and I told them that my feeling was that this was a real jewel in the crown of historic structures, not only in the Olympic Peninsula but also in the state of Washington.
I've lived in Sequim about 8 years, and I saw this as the heritage focal point for the community. This is where the pioneers started. This is where all the old stories are, creaking on these floorboards and in these walls. I love to do history presentations down here or audio videotape the elders with their pioneer stories. The schoolhouse just epitomizes what we are, where we came from, and it's what's going to keep the community together.
It's a celebration of a sense of place, of a historic structure that's lasted 120 years. It was actually built in 1892 by Mr. Bushnell. We've been in contact with his great-grandniece, who had sent us a letter telling us that her great-uncle had built this place. So it was built in 1892, and it started classes in 1893, so that's 120 years ago. We thought it was a good occasion to celebrate the sense of community that's beginning to build around Sequim again.
It's awfully important, I think, to have an iconic place like this that you can feel and touch and sense.
Sequim used to be more cows than people by a long shot. There was maybe 300 people and 3,000 cows. And the schoolhouse, not only was it a place where people got together and had education, but they also had community events here. And to this day, we're still having community events here and classes, not in the same sense that we had before.
A lot of times when you take people through, they actually recognize people in there, and which is good because we're trying to get as many of those people named. Not all of them are named yet, so I just really enjoy being part of it.
Well, the schoolhouse is just an important community focal point. It's a lot of the who and why of Clallam County.
I first came here as a first grader in 1936, and I attended in the little room, which is the room directly below the portion of the north part of this room. That was the little room. The big room, of course, had the big kids in it. My teacher for 4 years, not because I failed 4 grades in a row, but my teacher was Mrs. Irene McDonald. Mrs. McDonald, I really credit her with my ability to even stand up and speak. She was a strong believer in phonics. When I arrived at the 6th grade, I was the only 6th grader in school. The programs that we had here were in the auditorium. This auditorium has been here ever since the high school vacated this building, and all the students from the high school went to Sequim, and that was about 1922 or 23, somewhere in that area. And so the auditorium was here. This stage is almost identical to what it was. I first stood on this stage probably before I even got into school here, because they'd have Christmas programs, and my brother and I had pretty good voices, and I can remember singing on this stage, "Santa Claus is coming to town." And of course all the parents who were all the farmers in the area, and whenever there were students on this stage, their moms and dads were right out there.
It marks a time where the people in Sequim are now beginning to feel a sense of camaraderie with each other. People have come in from all over the place. I came in from California.